Good morning, Voice Church. We are so glad that you're with us today, joining online, especially our brand new Bardell Micro Church. We just want to invite you today to sing out with us as we sing this together. We're going to worship. This is one you've probably heard before, so I want to just invite you to sing with us this morning. Don't hold back. Let's sing this out.
Gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love never fails, it never gives up, never runs out on me. And your love never fails, it never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love. We sing on and on, because on and on and on and on it goes. It overwhelms and satisfies my soul, and I never ever have to be afraid, 'cause this one thing remains, this one thing, oh, this one thing remains. We sing it, that your love never fails and never gives up, never runs out on me. And your love never fails and never gives up, never runs out on me. I believe that your love never fails and never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love in death, in life, and in death, in life, I'm confident and covered by the power of your great love. When we sing it, my debt is paid. There's nothing that can separate my heart from your great love. Oh, 'cause your love never fails and never gives up, it never runs out on me. Jesus, your love never fails, never gives up, it never runs out on me. And your love never fails and never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love, we say that on and on and on and on it goes. For it overwhelms and satisfies my soul, and I never ever have to be afraid, 'cause this one thing remains, this one thing, this one thing, it remains. Oh, when your love never fails and never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love never fails and never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love never fails,
we sing this out today? Walking around these walls, I thought by now they'd fall, but you have never failed me yet. Oh no, waiting for change to come, but knowing the battle's won, for you have never failed me yet. You sing your promise. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You never failed me yet. Oh Jesus, I know. Do you believe that today? We sing this verse out together. I know the night. I know the night won't last. Your word will come to pass, and my heart will sing your praise again. Yes, it will. 'Cause Jesus, you're still enough. Keep me within your love, and my heart will sing your praise again. Oh, we sing it out. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence that you never fail. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. Jesus, this is my confidence. You never failed me yet. You still haven't failed me after all this time. Oh, I lift up my praise, for you've never failed me. You're worthy of it all. Can we sing this and declare this out today, church? I've seen you move. Come on. I've seen you move. You move the mountains, and I believe I'll see you do it again. You made a way where there was no way. I know and I believe I'll see you do it again. I've seen you move. You move the mountains, and I believe, Jesus, I'll see you do it again. You made a way where there was no way, and I believe it. I'll see you do it again. I see you move. You move the mountains, and I believe I'll see you do it again. You made a way, Jesus, where there was no way, and I believe it. I'll see you do it. Oh, you'll do it again. No, you'll do it again. Oh,
your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You never fail me, no. Your promise still stands. Oh, great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. God, this is my confidence that you never fail me. Yeah. You never fail me, yeah. And I never will forget that you never fail me, yeah. Oh, I never will forget. No, 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 no. We love you, Jesus.
You are the Word at the beginning, one with God the Lord Most High. Your hidden glory in creation, now revealed in you are Christ. What a beautiful name it is. What a beautiful name it is. The name of Jesus Christ, my King. What a beautiful name it is. And nothing compares to this. What a beautiful name it is. The name of Jesus.
We sing it out. You didn't want heaven.
You didn't want heaven without us. So Jesus, you brought heaven down. Sin was great, your love was greater. What could separate us now? What a wonderful name it is. What a wonderful name it is. The name of Jesus Christ our King. What a wonderful name it is. Nothing compares to this. What a wonderful name it is. The name of Jesus. What a wonderful name it is. The name of Jesus.
Just want to invite you in this moment, if you're comfortable, just to get into a posture, a physical posture that shows a sign of inner surrender. Maybe that looks like lifting your hands. Maybe it looks like bowing your head. But just in a way that says, God, I am open to everything that you have for me today. Just in a way that says, God, you are everything to me. Jesus, we lift up your name together. The powerful name that is above every name, that sets the captives free. We declare this out. Come on. That
Death could not hold you. Veil tore before you.
I know that.
You silenced the boast of sin and
We lift it up. Come on.
shame.
That
The heavens are roaring, the praise of your glory. For you are raised to life again. Oh, you have no rival, and you have no equal.
that name. God, you are always faithful. We hold that name in our minds. We put all our faith, all our trust in your name. And we pause for just a moment. To remind ourselves, no matter how chaotic the world may feel, either the big world out there or the world right here inside each of us, God, everything, all the powers of darkness, all fear, all hatred, all division, it all bows to you. Jesus came to bring heaven to earth, the love and the unity of God perfectly on display. God, may we be looking for that in the world around us. May we be catalysts and agents of that unity, of that hope, of that restoration. God, may we experience it in our own lives every single day. In Jesus' name, amen.
Good morning and welcome to Voice Church. Happy Father's Day. We are so grateful to all the amazing dads who are tuning in to our live stream today. Whether you are watching from the comforts of your own home or you're at one of our micro church locations, shout out to everybody that's at Bardot right now. We're just so grateful that you are here. Hey, if it's your first time or if it's your 100th time and you call this church your home, we want you to know that we are here for you and we want to connect with you. We want to invite you to be part of all the amazing things that we're doing here as a church. So there's a connection card that you could fill out online at voice.church/connect, and we'll be sure to get you plugged in. Microchurch host. So we've officially launched our first microchurch today. That's super exciting. And what microchurch is, it's a small group of us just gathering to watch service together because we believe in the power of connection and being in community. And this is the safest way for us to transition back into meeting as a larger congregation. So if you're interested in hosting, you have a home or a business that you could open up to us, we'd love to hear from you. Shoot us an email at connect@voice.church and we'll be sure to get you trained. Lobby time. For those of you guys who are watching at home, we are having lobby time once again after service. And what lobby time is a way for you to connect to people you might not normally connect with at e-groups and talk to the pastors and staff and get any questions that you have answered. And honestly, it's just a fun time for us to connect with you. We miss seeing you guys at the lobby at church. So we're going to be hosting that after church. So stay tuned. We'll drop the link to that in the chat section. Now, normally we have a question for you to answer, but we have something better for you today. One thing dads are known for is their cheesy dad jokes. So we put together a little video for you in honor of Father's Day. Check it out.
Good to see you.
Good to see you, Eric.
Would you like to go first?
Pleasure's yours.
Why couldn't the typewriter have fun?
Why?
He was low keyboard.
All right. My turn. Why couldn't the toilet paper cross the road?
Why?
Because it got stuck in a crack.
Nice one. Why is Stevie Wonder's calendar like meeting people on Tinder?
Why?
It's all blind dates.
It's on.
I'm tagging out.
All right.
Hi, John. Good to
Hi.
see you.
Good seeing you.
House of the Lord. Is that a point? Okay, who goes first?
I think it's my turn.
Okay.
Okay. Did you know that diarrhea is hereditary?
No.
Because it runs in the genes. Tag.
Taka. Mikey. What happens when you go to the bathroom in France?
I don't know.
European.
It's good. That was
Get
a
it?
solid joke.
European?
That was a solid joke. What do you call a pudgy psychic?
A pudgy psychic? What?
A fortune teller. Get it? 4 chins.
That was a good one, actually. Did you hear about the cheese factory that exploded in France? Debris is everywhere. Debris is everywhere. Did you laugh a little bit? Okay, your turn.
Oh, okay. Who is the best kung fu vegetable?
Who?
Broccoli.
We both lose the point?
Broccoli. Yeah, we both lose a point. Broccoli.
Yours are better than mine. What do you call a fish with 2 knees? Toonie fish.
That's a solid joke.
I'm taking out.
Eric,
Your turn?
what do you say to someone who has a bladder infection?
What do I say to somebody who has a bladder infection?
You're in trouble.
It's good. You've had better, but that was good. My wife is really mad at the fact that I have no sense of direction. So I packed my stuff and right instead of left.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I got it.
Yeah. I didn't write the joke.
It's fine.
I was handed the joke
it's
by
fine.
somebody. Yeah,
no, it's fine. Actually, I'm gonna tag out.
All right, I'm back.
Welcome back.
Thank you. All right. What kind of sneakers do chickens wear?
I have no idea.
Reebok.
That was excellent delivery.
Thank you.
John Fawn. Why couldn't the bicycle stand up by itself? It was
Why?
too tired.
That's a good one. All right. What did the drummer say to his twin daughters?
What?
And a 1 and a 2.
What do you call an elephant that just doesn't matter? Irrelevant.
Pretty good, pretty good.
I'm out.
All right. All right, Taka. What did the fried rice, I know you love fried rice, say to the shrimp?
What?
Don't walk out on me.
Okay. Which U.S. state is famous for its extra small soft drinks?
I don't know.
Mini soda. Mini soda. Little soda.
I'm taking out.
How do you weigh a millennial
How?
in Instagrams?
That's a good one. That's a good one. So a vowel saves another vowel's life. The other vowel says, A-E, I owe you.
There could have been a better delivery. I feel like that. Like, no. What do you call ghost poop?
Kevin?
Boo boo.
Oh, I get it.
Boo.
Yeah, I
As
get
in
it.
ghost?
Okay, yeah. Did you hear? God, it's not even funny. Did you hear February wasn't able to march? But April may.
I like that.
Get it?
That's a solid
Little
joke.
clever.
That's a
Yeah, not
solid
really
joke.
funny,
No,
but
that's
yeah,
a solid
okay.
joke.
All right.
I told my wife she drew her eyebrows up too high. She seemed surprised.
Because they were too high.
They're too high.
Yeah. What's the best way to watch a fishing tournament?
I don't know.
Live stream.
Oh,
Live stream.
that's good. That's solid. Eric,
Hey,
what do you call a religious quarterback?
no idea.
A pastor.
Okay. Did you know after Jay-Z got his master's degree in math, he suffered depression? Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Because he had 99 problems, but he didn't solve one.
I'm out.
Eric?
Hi.
Hey. What do you call a pony with a sore throat?
A pony
With a sore throat.
with a sore throat? No idea.
A little horse.
What concert costs just 45 cents?
I have
50
no-
Cent featuring Nickelback.
That's a good one. All right. All right. What do you call a funky smelling car?
Couldn't tell you.
A musk tank.
Did you hear that about the graveyard, that it was getting overcrowded? Did you hear about that?
No.
People were dying to get in there.
All right. All right, Taka.
3 pretty bad ones here.
All right, I got one for you. How do billboards talk?
Billboards?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Sign language.
Okay. Did you hear that there was a massive robbery at the Apple Store and all the cops detained everyone there for hours taking statements? Large setup there. They were all eyewitnesses. Eyewitnesses, Apple.
That's a good one. Yeah.
iMac, iPod. Not proud of that one.
How many lips does a flower have?
3.
2 lips.
Get it. Why was the broom late for work? It overswept.
Ooh,
Overswept.
I get it.
Yeah.
What kind of hair does IHOP sell?
You gonna make it through this one?
What kind of hair does IHOP sell?
What kind?
Extensions? Deep breath.
How do you cut the ocean in half?
I don't know.
With a seesaw.
Oh,
A seesaw.
clever.
Yeah.
If 2 vegans get into a fight,
Yeah.
is it still considered a beef?
Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Voice Church. Whether you're watching at home or if you are at Bardo, hope you're enjoying your free latte on us. I want to reiterate what Sharon said. Next week, we have our first microchurch locations in Irvine, in the Northwood area. And then we have a microchurch location in Eastvale. So if you're from IE, Corona, Riverside, man, those are great options to check out. Also, want to highlight before we drop into the teaching, want to highlight the website Race Matters. And so it's voice.church/Race Matters. If you haven't had a chance to go through some of the resources on there, I highly encourage you to do so. Remember what we said a couple weeks ago. This is not a short-term fad. This is a long-term battle. Okay, it's not a short-term fad. It's a long-term battle. I think what all of us need, especially those of us that are not in the black community, is perspective. Perspective. Just because something isn't happening to us doesn't mean it's not happening to other members of our society. And if 12 or 13 image bearers of God that we believe are in America are experiencing something together, we should know about that. If 13 million members of our family are hurting right now in our nation, then we need to know and be a part of how to make that right, or at least trend in the right direction. You know, my dad is a martial arts instructor. He would train SWAT teams and like that kind of stuff on the side growing up. And one of the ideas he instilled in me was this idea of what the black belt represents. The black belt is obviously you start with a white belt when you start in martial arts, and the colors get darker the more you learn, and then eventually becomes a black belt. What you may not realize unless you did martial arts is that within a black belt is actually another white belt. So the more you use your black belt, the more it begins to fray at the edges, and then the black fabric starts to wear away and exposes a white belt again. And the whole idea behind that is the more that you know, the more you realize you don't know. And that becomes the 2nd-degree black belt, the 3rd-degree black belt, and the whole essence of this is respect and humility. And what we see a lot of times is people arguing online or arguing one-on-one. There's pride. There's a closed mind that says, no, I know everything there is to know. I don't need to read anything or watch anything. When the reality is, I think we all need a good dose of perspective. And as we hear over and over again, people watching these videos and reading these books and listening to these podcasts that we're encouraging people to read, we're hearing over and over again people say, I had no idea that's what their experience was like. So go to Race Matters, www.voice.church/Race Matters, and feel free to check that out. Also, just want to say Happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. Hope you have called your dad or texted your dad. If not, ignore me right now. Go text your dad. Tell them Happy Father's Day. What tends to happen in churches is that on Mother's Day, we say, Moms, you're awesome. And then on Father's Day, we say, Dads, step it up. All right, so it's not going to be one of those talks today. But interesting fact, Mother's Day is typically the highest attended Sunday of the year for a church outside of Christmas and Easter. You may not realize that. So there's Christmas, Easter, so the Creaster attenders, and then you have Mother's Day, because you have moms saying, you know, to the family, the greatest gift you can give me is come to church with me, and then let's grab lunch afterwards. What's interesting, though, the converse is that Father's Day is actually the lowest attended Sunday historically of the church calendar. lower than Labor Day, Memorial Day, 4th of July weekend. It's the lowest because where moms are saying, please come to church with me as your Mother's Day gift, I think a lot of dads are saying, please let me sleep in as a gift for me on Father's Day. And I just want to highlight for you dads the just incredible influence that you have. Let me give you a few stats. If a child in the family is the first one in the household to go to church, there's a 3.5% chance that the rest of the family will follow. So if the kid goes to middle school youth group with their neighbor friend and he becomes a Christian, starts going to church, there's a 3.5% chance the rest of the family will follow. If the mom is the first one to go, the stat goes up by 5 times, 17% chance the rest of the family will follow. But if the dad starts going to church, there's a 93% chance the rest of the family will follow and serve God as well. All that to say, dads, you have a unique influence on your family. The Bible would say you're the priest of the home. Now, I don't want that to be intimidating to you, but what the Bible is saying is there's a unique role that you play, dads, of influence and spiritual leadership in your home. And so today we're going to talk about one of the greatest gifts you can give your family. And that's the gift of your relationship with God. If you're taking notes today, we're calling this You Got This. You got this. And the whole idea behind You Got This is a double meaning. One, you have this responsibility. You got this responsibility, whether you want it or not. And secondly, you can do this. You can do that. I know it seems intimidating, and you got to realize for me as a pastor and a dad, it is an intimidating thing to lead your home. I feel like it's easier to lead a church than it is to lead your kids sometimes, but you got this. You can do this. So we're in a series right now called Live Full. Live Full. And the analogy we're using is the analogy of a car. And the whole idea is you have different tanks in your car, right? So you have your gas tank, which is the obvious one, but you also have all these different reservoirs. You have oil and coolant and transmission fluid and power steering fluid, brake fluid, all these things. And these tanks are connected, yet they're separate, right? They're connected because if you come over to the house, you're going, my car is not working, which doesn't make any sense because the gas tank is full. But there's smoke coming out of the engine. Okay, just because your gas tank is full doesn't mean your coolant is full, right? And because these fluids are so important for a car to run properly, the manufacturers make it really easy to do 2 things. One, to tell your fluid level at a glance. So you can just look at a gauge. If your car's working properly and not broken, you can just look at a gauge and see how much gas you have, how much power steering fluid you have at a glance. So it's easy to tell where your level is, and it's easy to fill back up. Right? There's easy spouts to fill back up with whatever fluid that you need. But here's the thing, it's not that easy with you and me, is it? So we believe there are at least 5 tanks. If there's at least 5 tanks that we're going to go over. Last week we talked about the emotional. Today we're going to talk about the spiritual and relational tanks, which kind of go hand in hand. Next week we're going to talk about the physical and intellectual tanks. But here's the problem with us. You can glance at a car and see what the level is at. But how do you determine in your own life, how am I doing physically? How am I doing emotionally? And then if I discover that I'm kind of low physically, I'm kind of low relationally, how do you fill that tank back up? That's the handles that we want to give you. Last week, Diana, a local member of our church and a marriage and family therapist, talked about the emotional tank. We took an entire Sunday to talk about the emotional tank because this has been an emotionally expensive year so far, hasn't it? We're not even halfway through, and I feel like my tank is on fumes many times emotionally. So Diana went through and talked about 3 different segments of her talk. It's not one of those talks that you can just listen to once while you're doing something else. This is one of those talks you're gonna have to like pause and start again as you evaluate kind of where you're at emotionally. We got messages this week of people saying, I listened to this 3 or 4 times. I need to listen to that many times to get it back into my spirit. Today, we're going to talk about the spiritual and relational tanks, the spiritual and relational tanks. So Jesus was asked what the most important commands were out of the nearly 700 laws of the laws of Moses that the Israelites were following at that time. And they were trying to trap him. That's a whole nother sermon. But Jesus replied to their question of what the most important commandment was with this. It says, Jesus replied, you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and all your mind. Some of your translations may read, you must love the Lord your God with all that makes you, you. What Jesus is saying here is, everything that makes you, you, your heart, your soul, your mind, your strength, your finances, your time, your gifts, everything has to be submitted and used for God's purposes. And he says this is the first and greatest commandment. A second is equally important. So this is not 1 and 2. This is 1A and 1B. They're equally important. He says, well, love the Lord God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And the second, which is equally important, love your neighbor as yourself. Essentially what God was saying is there's two relationships that your life is going to be boiled down to. Your relationship with God and your relationship with people. It's all relationships. Gary Smaller said life is relationships. Everything else is just details, which I firmly agree with. There's shared elements between these two planes, but they're separate. So we're going to talk about them separately. The first one is horizontal relationships, relationships with people, right? We are made for relationships. If you look at even the 10 Commandments we talked about a few weeks ago, the 10 Commandments are not about things you're not allowed to do. The 10 Commandments is about protecting relationships in your life. Protect your relationship with God and relationships with your people that you do life with here on earth. Bible also says in Genesis, this crazy idea, if you really stop to think about it, God creates Adam in perfection, right? They're in a pre-sin, sinless world. He's in perfect relationship with God. He has everything he needs. He literally walks with God every day. Yet God says it's not good. It's not good for him to be alone. That man needs relationships here on earth. And if it was true for Adam, how much more so is it true for us? You know, you may not realize this, but actually prison systems get sued on a regular basis for a lot of things. But one of the things they get sued for on a regular basis is the use of solitary confinement. And there's a lawsuit in 2017 against the Birmingham DOC, the Alabama DOC, Department of Corrections. And I quote, this says this: long-term isolation resulting from segregation or solitary confinement has crippling consequences for mental health. They go on to say, even mentally healthy prisoners can develop mental illness, such as depression, psychosis, and anxiety. Think about that. Prisoners that are in solitary confinement for weeks can develop psychosis, anxiety, depression, mental illness. Well, what happens when you have a planet that's in isolation? What happens to the souls? Right now, what we're seeing is 1 in 3 people in America are suffering with anxiety or depression since this pandemic started. That's an issue. Again, if you have not listened to last week's message, go back and listen to it. It's so helpful for where we're at right now. But whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, we all need connection. Look, I'm an introvert by nature, an extrovert kind of by mission. And I'm telling you, even I have my limits, okay? I'm talking to a lot of friends that are introverts. There's some that are living their best life, but there are a lot of introverts that are going, I need some connection with people. I'm hitting my limits too. So, how do you determine the level of your relational tank, and how do you live full relationally? Put pretty simply, relationships are built with 2 things: time and trust. Relationships are built with time and trust. So if you want to build a relationship in your life, if you want to invest into it, you invest time and you build trust. That's how relationships grow. Relationships fall apart when there's a breakdown of time and trust. Right? And if you look at this relationships that are strong in your life, you've invested time, you have memories, right? You get together with a friend you haven't seen in 10 years and you're like, remember that time that we did this? Right? There's trust there. Or people you went through military, you went to school with, or you went to the gym with, and you've invested time and you've built trust with them, right? So along these lines, here's a few questions to consider as you evaluate kind of where you're at relationally. Number 1, what life-giving relationships am I spending time investing into? What life-giving relationships am I spending time investing into? Number 2, what relationships have drifted because of time restraints? Now, I'm not saying these relationships are good or bad. We'll talk about that in a bit here. But what relationships have drifted because of time restraints? And number 3, what relationships have been broken? What relationships have been broken because of breaches of trust? Maybe you messed up. Maybe they messed up. Maybe both of you messed up, which is probably the case a lot of times. But because of that, the relationship that used to be intact is now broken, right? So here's a 4th question with those 3, kind of an addendum to those 3. In light of your answers to those 3 questions, what's the next wise thing to do? In light of your answers to those questions, what's a wise thing to do? So you may say, you know what, when you ask me, do I have any life-giving relationships? I don't. Okay, the next wise thing to do is how do you start on a path towards creating some life-giving relationships in your life? Maybe join a small group. Maybe if you're watching online, go to microchurch so you can get around some other people, right? Maybe join an e-group or join a hiking group or something like that. If you're someone and you're saying that, man, for question number 2, that's kind of where I'm at. There's some relationships that have drifted because of time restraints, like being in quarantine, right? And here's the thing. You may say there's relationships where we're not healthy and some of those drifted apart. Okay, the wise thing to do is let them drift apart, right? Because maybe when you were around them, you tended to be materialistic or gossip or get cynical in your heart. Okay, let those drift. But maybe there's some other relationships that you have let drift or they have drifted apart because of time restraints. And when you're around them, you become selfless. You become more aware. You want to seek God more and be more generous with your life. Then maybe the wise thing is to reinitiate and invest some time with those relationships. Or the last question of what relationships have been broken because of breaches of trust. Maybe the wise thing is to reconcile. Maybe the wise thing to do is to text them and say, I'm sorry that I did this or that, or I forgive you. If it was a toxic relationship, I'm not saying that you should go be BFF with them, but maybe you need to reconcile, but then draw some lines going forward. Now, once you've determined kind of what are my core relationships, what are the 5 to 7 people that are in my inner circle, right? Because you become like those you hang around. So the 5 to 7 people that are closest to me, here's a couple questions I want you to consider with those relationships. They're very important to diagnose your important relationships. Number 2, do I feel connected in this relationship? Do I feel safe? Do I feel connected? And do I feel safe? Connected is real simple. This is subjective. This is fluid. This is kind of like balancing a broomstick. You ever try to balance a broomstick on your hand? You're constantly moving. You can't just like balance it and then you're good, right? You have to constantly move it, and your body is naturally reacting to things and to balance this broomstick. It's the same way with relationships. It's a every day, every week. Do I feel connected to this person? If not, maybe we need to go hang out in a socially safe way. Maybe we need to hop on a video call. Maybe we need to go on a date if there's someone that you're dating that week. If you do feel connected with them, you're good. But do I feel connected? The second question, this is probably the most important question you could ask in any relationship, is do I feel safe? Do I feel safe? In other words, will you stick by me? As I get older, will you stick by me? If I make mistakes, and I'll make mistakes as I'm human, will you stick by me? If I gain weight, will you stick by me? Which is kind of a silly thing to think, but we think it. Will you stick by me? See, if a car has a high safety rating, like a Volvo or something, right? What that means is it can handle a significant impact or impacts without mortally wounding the passengers. So what we're trying to determine here is, what is the safety rating of this relationship? Are you safe? What you're also asking with this is, can I trust you? Are you hiding things from me? Are you like texting with your phone away from me? What's really going on? Will you protect me and not hurt me? I know it's sad that we even have to ask questions like that, but these are important questions. Will you protect me and not hurt me? Verbally, physically, emotionally? And the ultimate question is, can I fully be me around you? Can I let my guard down, or do I have to have my guard up around you? What's also important with this safety question is you need to flip it. You need to flip it. Do others feel safe around me? Do others feel safe around you? If you don't know, ask them. Ask them. Do I find myself starting fights with people in person? Or do I find myself starting fights with people online? Why is that? Because vulnerable people felt really safe around Jesus. Think about the woman caught in adultery. And just let us process this for a second. She was literally caught in the act of adultery. In the act, red-handed. And then pulled out of the house into the street to be executed by religious leaders. Most likely she was naked. Or maybe she grabbed a blanket as she was getting pulled off the bed. But she was in a vulnerable situation, about to be killed. And Jesus protected her. Think about tax collectors. Think about the poor. Think about widows. Think about the racial outcasts, the Samaritans of the day. Jesus not only highlighted Samaritans, Jesus made the Samaritans the heroes of the story. Much to the chagrin of the leaders, right? The religious leaders also, there were some of them like Nicodemus who wanted to kind of defect from the institution and wanted to be more like Jesus. Jesus protected them too. See, followers of Christ should be like Christ, right? We should be the most patient, the most loving, the most grace-filled, the biggest protectors. We should not be arguers and boycotters and manipulators and charlatans. People should say, well, obviously that person's a Christian. Look how kind they are. Look at how they lead with humility. Look how they make peace wherever they go. There's a story of Alexander the Great. I'm not advocating for Alexander's lifestyle in any way. There's a story of Alexander the Great, and who knows if it's true, where he couldn't sleep one night. He was walking the grounds of the encampment, and he finds this young soldier that was supposed to be guarding this gate asleep. And Alexander the Great wakes him up and says, "What's your name?" This kid wakes up, looks up at Alexander. He's startled, right? He's like going, "I'm about to die," right? So Alexander the Great looks at this kid and says, "What's your name?" And this kid says, "Alexander." So Alexander the Great has an epiphany moment. He's quoted as saying, okay, either change your behavior or change your name. Either change your behavior or change your name. And I think God is looking at us as his followers, saying, if you're going to follow me, if you're going to take my name as Christian, which means little Christ, if you're going to follow me, then follow me. Either change your behavior or change your name. So, am I connected to this person? Do I feel safe around this person? Do they feel connected to me? Do they feel safe around me? And in light of your answers, what's the next wise thing to do? How do you refill the relationship? By answering that question. So that's a horizontal relationship. Now let's take a few minutes to talk about the vertical relationship. We talk about this actually most Sundays, but let me talk about some helpful metrics that we can use. Look, we are spiritual beings. We are created to be in relationship with God. That's why we're created. And we sense it, right? When you go to the ocean, when you go to the Grand Canyon, when you're out camping in the middle of nowhere and you see the Milky Way, you see all the stars, there's something that calls you. And even you may be the biggest atheist, but there's something in you that goes, there's got to be more to life than this. There has to be something out there. The Bible would call that deep calling on to deep. That the deep, eternal parts of you is reaching out for the deep, eternal parts of God. We have talked about this before, but in Genesis, there's an important idea, concept we need to draw out. And what it says is God created, the land and the water, but then God would speak to the water and say, let the waters bring forth fish. He would speak to the land and say, let the land bring forth plants. Let the land bring forth animals. Why is that important? Because what he was doing, he was speaking to the source to create the thing, right? So he would say, speak to land, make a cow. Why that is important? Because you can take a cow out of the source, off the land, put him in the water. It'll flop around for a little bit, but it's eventually going to die. You can take a fish out of its source, the water, put him on land. It'll flop around for a little bit, but it's going to die. What's important to understand is when God created you and me, he said, let us create man. He was speaking to himself, the triune God, as a source and saying, let us create man. God is our source. We're created to be in connection with God. And if you're not in a relationship with God, you can go to church consistently, online or in person, and still not have a relationship with God, still not be connected to God. And you can flop around for a while, but at some point you're going to realize, have this epiphany moment, there's something missing inside. So, we talked before, how are relationships built? It's the same construct with relationships with God. Relationships are built with time and trust, right? Time and trust. Invest time and build trust. So your relationship with God will grow when you invest time and you build trust. Your relationship with God will fall apart when there are breakdowns of time and trust. So let's go over those three questions again in light of this context. Number one, am I spending significant time investing into my relationship with God? Am I spending significant time investing in my relationship with God? Now, this doesn't have to be the same as somebody else. You may have a friend that prays for an hour a day or journals or has paints a new picture of Jesus every day, and you're like, that is so weird. I can't do that. God made you unique. So connect with God the way you're designed to connect with God. You may be someone who sings. You may be someone who writes. There's people that go to the church that they're connecting with God as they dance. I'm not one of those people. if you watch me dance for the Lord, you might get nauseous, right? So don't, right? Prayer is something I think all of us should do. Maybe, I'm thinking of specific people in our church family that the way they worship God, they connect to God, is they serve other people, and they're always volunteering to serve the most vulnerable in our community, right? But whatever it is for you, invest significant time into your relationship with God. And if you feel like your spiritual tank is low, my guess is you haven't invested time into your relationship with God. Number 2, has my relationship with God drifted because of time restraints? What's so weird about quarantine season is it's like busy bored, right? I don't know if you feel that. It just looks different than it used to. So here's a question in light of this. What can you cut out of your schedule to make room for God? Another way to ask it is, how can you create some space in your daily schedule for God? It's easy to let that relationship drift. And number 3, has my relationship with God been broken because of breaches of trust? Has my relationship with God been broken because of breaches of trust? This is an important one. Maybe you had questions that you were not allowed to ask in church. And because you weren't allowed to ask it, it poked holes in the foundation of your faith. And you just wanted someone to explain to you, well, if God is love, then what about this I read in the Bible? Or if God is this, and how come I see this in the world? And no one would answer your question. And that poked holes in the foundation of your faith, kind of broke some trust. Maybe someone representing him, a pastor or a spiritual leader, breached trust, right? Made decisions that a person in their position should never make. And you're thinking, if God could allow that to happen, maybe he's not good after all. And to that, I would say, I'm sorry. And I'd say sometimes kids don't represent their parents really well. And sometimes pastors don't represent God well. Another idea is maybe you had a bad experience at a church. Maybe you had a bad experience at this church, and you let that reflect on God. How can you build trust again? How can you reconcile? How can you be honest with God about what you feel? Right? So in light of your answers to those questions, what's the next wise thing to do? What's the next wise thing to do? Here's what I would challenge you to do to live full in your relationship with God. First one is create rhythms that are realistic. Don't be unreal. I see people all the time go, I'm going to start working out. So I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. on Tuesday and do this workout. And on Wednesday, I'm going to wake up at 4:30 and do this workout. And by 2 days in, they're like, it's so hard. Okay? So consistency before complexity. Consistency before complexity. So create a rhythm that makes sense daily and weekly. Start simple. Start with just praying and reading your Bible even for a few moments a day. Start a timer, 5 minutes praying, 5 minutes reading. Now, a year from now, if you're still doing 5 and 5, you probably need to grow a little bit, but start where you're at, okay? Second thing is make a moment to recreate newness. You've heard us talk about this before. In the beginning of any relationship, the newness creates moments, right? So in a dating relationship, the first time you hold hands, the first time you kiss, you get all butterflies in your stomach. Well, if you've been married for 20 years, you don't celebrate, it's the 1,000th time that we've held hands, right? At some point, the newness wears off. So in the beginning of a relationship, the newness creates moments. So what you need to do now is create a moment to recreate newness. Make a moment to recreate newness. So what does that look like spiritually? Get a new Bible. Get a new journal. Stream a new worship album. Just post on social, what's a worship album that you guys are listening to right now? And listen to that album. Maybe try fasting. Right? Like taking time to not eat, but pray instead, which I know you're like, how can I possibly go without a meal? You'll figure it out, right? Or you maybe fast a TV for a season and take that time to focus on relationship with God. Or here's an idea. Maybe you try something radical and you turn off your phone. Like, I don't know if you realize this, but your phones actually have a button that will actually shut them off and they don't work anymore, right? Maybe you turn off your phone and go on a prayer walk. Just take 10, 15, 30 minutes, go on a prayer walk, right? And there's nothing super spiritual about a prayer walk. A prayer walk is simply praying as you're going for a walk. And now with your headphones in, you can pray and people just think you're on a phone call, right? So it's fine. So maybe you need to step into your fears and join a small group, right? But how do you do something new to create newness again? Last thing with this is to start with where you actually are and not where you wish you were. Start with where you actually are, not with where you wish you were. A lot of my journal entries, to be honest with you, I love to journal most of the time, but most of my journal entries start with, I haven't journaled in a long time, right? Or too often my prayer times start with, God, I'm sorry we haven't talked in a while, but here's what's going on with me. Instead of trying to pretend, start with where you actually are. Look, just like before, and for any relationship to flourish, we need to be able to answer yes to these two questions. Do I feel connected and do I feel safe? Do I feel connected and do I feel safe? So, do you feel connected to God? I'm not asking if you go to church. Obviously, you go to church at some level, you wouldn't be watching this. Do I feel connected to God? Do you feel connected to God? And then secondly, do you feel safe with him? And regardless of what your answers are, talk to him about it. You may be someone who's saying, I've never been a Christian, but I'm really curious. Or maybe you used to be a Christian and you've kind of drifted. Maybe your heart's drifted while you've continued to go to church. Maybe you need to rededicate your life to God. If you're completely foreign to the idea of church, go to our website, go into resources, you'll see Jesus. It's just a webpage that says Jesus, and it walks you through kind of our core beliefs around Jesus and how to live fully for him. But if you want to give your life to God, it's as simple as just praying to God wherever you're at and just saying, God, I want to give my life to you. And if you do that, man, go to voice.church/connect. That's the connection card. And just click on the box in there that says, I rededicated my life or I gave my life to Jesus today. And the team will reach out to you, get you connected with a 40-day email devotional to give you a little bit of things to think about every day with some Bible verses and some prayers, right? We'll get you connected. The next time we do baptisms, we can baptize you. But maybe you feel unconnected or disconnected with God and you want to reconnect with him. That's the best way to do it. Now, for all of us, make a decision now that you want to live full. You want to live with your emotional tank full, your spiritual and relational tank full. That in our relationships with others and our relationships with God, that we want to have healthy and connected and life-giving relationships. We're going to end here by singing a song together. It's called Touch of Heaven. And here's some of the lyrics. It says, Lord, I know my heart wants more of you. My heart wants something new, so I surrender all. All I want is to live within your love, be undone by who you are. My desire is to know you deeper, so Lord, I will open up again. Throw my fears into the wind. I'm desperate for a touch of heaven. And I think right now what's so important for us to realize is that in the middle of a worldwide pandemic, in the middle of disease, discrimination, social media fights, riots, the politicalization of literally everything, it's exhausting. The cost emotionally is higher right now. But it's telling too, isn't it? I think what this is doing, it's reminding us that our hope doesn't come from this planet. Our hope doesn't come from people. Our hope doesn't come from DC. Our hope comes from above. We all need a touch of heaven. Let's go ahead and sing that now.
For the moment where I'm still in your presence, all the noise dies down. Lord, speak to me now. You have all my attention, so I will linger and listen. I can't miss a thing. Lord, I know my heart wants more of you. My heart wants something new, so I surrender all. And all I want is to live within your love, be undone by who you are. My desire is to know you deeper, Lord, so I will open up again. Throw my fears into the wind, 'cause 'cause I am desperate for a touch of heaven. Oh, and you're the fire in the morning, you're the cool in the evening, the breath in my soul. God, you're the life in my bones, and there is no hesitation in your love and affection. Oh, it's the sweetest of all. We sing that, Lord, Lord, I know my heart wants more of you. My heart wants something new, so I surrender all. And all I want is to live within your love and be undone by who you are. Oh, my desire is to know you deeper, Lord. So I will open up again. I'll throw my fears into the wind, 'cause I am desperate for a touch of heaven. Oh, I'm desperate. Oh, Jesus. Oh, is that your prayer today? Are you desperate for him today? We sing. Oh, I open up my heart to you. I open up my heart to you now. So do what only you can. Oh, Jesus, have your way in me now. Sing this today. I open up my heart to you. I open up my heart to you now. So do what only you can. Oh, Jesus, have your way in me now. I open up my heart to you. Oh, Lord, I open up my heart to you now. So do what only you can. Oh, Jesus, have your way in me now. Oh, Jesus, have your way in me now. Oh, Jesus, have your way. We sing all I want, 'cause all I want is just to live within your love, be undone by who you are. My desire is to know you deeper, Lord. So I will open up again. I'll throw my fears into the wind, 'cause I am desperate for a touch of
Hey guys, thanks again for joining us today. I know today was a really powerful message, and that time of worship was so moving, and you may be feeling God moving on your heart right now. You may be feeling God speaking to you. You may be having some things highlighted in your life that you feel that you need prayer for, and we just want you to know that we're here for you. So if that's you today, maybe you're one of those people who decided to give your life to God, don't forget to fill out a connection card. We want to pray with you. We want to pray for you. We want to answer any questions you might have. We want to make sure that you're connected. Taka talked today about being connected and how important it is to be connected to God and to others. And we're here for you in the middle of that journey. Also, during this time of the service, every week we do a free will offering, and that's just our way of giving back to God and saying, God, we love you. Thank you for everything that you've given us. And don't forget that your generosity allows us to continue to be generous to those in need during this season as well. So it's really easy to give online. It's super simple. Go ahead and do that if you want to do that right now. I also just wanted to remind you that we do have lobby time after service. Lobby time is a time where you can just get to see us face to face. So maybe you weren't able to join in a micro church yet today, but we want to see you face to face. So jump in to the lobby time, ask some questions, say hi, crack some jokes, introduce us to your dad. We'd love to meet him. But the links will be in the chat, so go ahead and click on that link, and we would love to get to meet you, to get to see you in lobby time. So every service we close out with a really simple prayer. And so if you would join me in that prayer, if you could just put out your hands as a sign of surrender, I would love to pray over you as we dismiss. God, I just thank you so much for who you are. I thank you that you are the Father who will never leave us. You are the Father who provides, who protects, who oversees every detail of our life. You believe in us, you created us, and you have plans and a purpose for us. And so I pray, Lord, as we go out into this week, Lord, I just ask, would you speak with us, with each one of us? Would you show us what your will is for our life, for our everyday going about everything that we do, Lord? Would you show us, Lord? Would you speak with us? God, would you also speak through us? Would you just allow us to learn from you, to hear what it is that you want to say, and to share that with other people, God? Would you speak through us? And lastly, would you speak through us as a church, God? Would we be your hands and feet in this world? Would we be that voice of hope? Would we be that voice of love in our community and to everyone that we meet? So God, we just pray, speak with us, speak through us, and speak through us as a church, God. We love you, and we give this week to you. Amen. Thank you again for joining us. We're so glad that you made it today.